Hi, I'm Sam Weigel with Flying Magazine, and I'm here at Chilhowee Gliderport in Benton, Tennessee. In 2020, at the height of the COVID pandemic, I came to this quiet oasis in the shadow of the Smoky Mountains to learn to fly gliders and add a commercial glider rating to my license. Today, a year and a half later, I've come back to get current to the sleek two-seat PW6, take my wife Dawn for a ride, and get checked out in my first single-play ship, the Polish-built PW5. At first glance, these slender, graceful birds seem to have little in common with the 187,000-pound Jet A burning beast that I flog around the skies of North America for work. In fact, gliders seem much more akin to sailboats, like the one I lived on for 5 years and cruised around the Caribbean. Along the way, I met a lot of sailors who, you guessed it, also fly gliders. And yet, there's also been a long-recognized correlation between flying gliders well and being at the top of your game in much more complex, high-performance powered aircraft. No less an authority than the U.S. Air Force prepares their pilots to fly aircraft like the F-22 by putting many Air Force Academy cadets through a glider course. Hey, who's this guy? Oh yeah, just the most famous glider pilot in the world, Captain Chesley B. Sullenberger III, aka Sully. Long before he became known as the hero of the Miracle on the Hudson, Sully learned to fly gliders at the Air Force Academy and later instructed in them as well. Good guy to have at the controls of an Airbus A320 when he stuck out both engines at low altitude over New York, huh? Oddly enough, there were two very similar incidents that predated Sully's feat. In 1983, an Air Canada Boeing 767 ran out of fuel due to a crazy set of circumstances involving inoperative fuel gauges, a botched refueling procedure, and the metric changeover from imperial gallons to liters. The captain, Bob Pearson, happened to be an experienced glider pilot, and he glided the powerless airliner 17 minutes to a safe landing at a closed Air Force Base cum motorsports park in Gimli, Manitoba, which is why this is known as the Gimli Glider Incident. And then, in 2001, an Air Transat Airbus 330 ran out of fuel over the mid-Atlantic Ocean due to a catastrophic fuel leak that the crew mishandled and actually made worse. The captain, Robert Pichet, at least partially redeemed himself by gliding 75 miles to the nearest bit of land in the Azores, where he successfully dead-sticked to a landing at Lodges Air Base. His connection with Bob Pearson and Sully? Yep, another experienced glider pilot. Now, after 3 incidents over 40 years, the chances of you having a dual engine failure in an airliner any time in your career are pretty small. Your chances of having an engine failure in a piston single are a lot higher though, and depending on where and when it happens, having glider experience could be the difference between making it through unscathed or not. After all, not only do gliders make every approach dead stick, but glider pilots are also trained in off-airport landings. Even if you never suffer an engine failure in your career, glider skills still translate to professional flying. Energy management is a crucial skill when flying transport category aircraft. Like gliders, most jets have very little aerodynamic drag, and it's very easy to get caught high and fast if you don't know you have excess energy. And while we do have engines, they don't accelerate nearly as fast as piston engines, and there have been lots of accidents where jet pilots were slow to recognize and react to a low energy situation. A proficient jet pilot monitors their aircraft's energy state, compares it to the desired state for each phase of flight, and makes small changes early on as needed. The safe, smooth, and efficient way to fly a jet is surprisingly analogous to the safe, smooth, and efficient handling that gliders demand. I've noticed an interesting trend over 18 years of airline flying. When I've been flying light aircraft lately, most especially tail draggers or gliders, my airliner landings get a lot better and more consistent. Mind you, a 737 handles and lands nothing like a PW6 or a Super Cub, but the skills that go into a good landing are the same. Early detection of flight path excursions and smooth, precise control response, the ability to eyeball your glide path, sensing and eliminating drift while aligning the longitudinal axis of the airplane with the centerline, and the use of peripheral vision in the flare. This isn't a sample size of one. When I fly with other pilots who strike me as exceptionally good stick and rudder pilots, they almost always fly something smaller and more demanding outside of work. Some of the best stick and rudder pilots I've flown with started in gliders while they were young and still fly them today. Of course, there's more to being a good professional pilot than just stick and rudder skills. While they're great to have and hone, they're only about 10% of the job. But flying gliders also teaches good judgment and decision making. How many feet of clearance do you want from that ridge before you cross it? Can you make it back to the gliderport with a safe margin, or should you land out in that hayfield right below you? Gliders also bring you much more in tune with your environment. Clouds, frontal systems, rain shafts, dust devils, air mass instability, mechanical turbulence, all these things become a lot less theoretical when you depend on your knowledge of them to stay airborne. A glider pilot, like a sailor, can always tell you which way the wind is blowing, and where it will be blowing 2 or 4 hours from now. But let's be honest, I don't fly gliders because they make me a better professional pilot. I fly them because they're fun, a ton of fun. Even this has application to my professional life. I have observed that most of my fellow pro pilots started out enjoying flying, but not everyone continued to enjoy it. For some, bankruptcies and furloughs and commuting and time away from home have overwhelmed even the physical act of flying, stripping all the joy out of it. Some of these guys are real miserable SOBs. As a rule, they do not fly outside of work. I personally find that the more enjoyment I get out of flying away from work, the more I enjoy the flying at work. Over the course of a 45-year career with 25 or 30% of my time spent away from home, that's hugely important to a life well lived. There's one last factor I want to mention. Gliders are a fantastic, inexpensive way for young kids who love aviation to start flying. You can solo a glider at 14 and get your license at 16 versus 16 and 17 for power planes. I started flying lessons in powered aircraft when I was only 13 and honestly wasted a fair amount of time and money stretching it out over 4 years. For a flying obsessed kid of that age who lives near a gliderport with an active soaring club, flying gliders will let them fly more often for less money, advance quicker, and give them a fantastic skill base to transfer to power planes and build their career. If I've whet your appetite to earn your glider rating, check out my article in the spring issue of Flying Magazine, which will be shipped to subscribers soon. Another good resource is the Soaring Society of America. Visit their website at ssa.org to learn what it takes to start gliding and to find a soaring club or commercial operator near you. Thanks for watching V1 Rotate, and look for new content every first and third Friday of the month right here at flyingmag.com.